The chamber was silent when the doors opened. No one ever entered the Galactic Council without permission. The council was made of the oldest and most powerful races in the galaxy. Their fleets ruled the stars. Their decisions shaped the future of thousands of worlds. For ages, no new species had dared to break into this place. And yet, on this day, the silence was broken by footsteps that were slow, heavy, and confident. Every alien eye turned toward the tall figure walking in. The guards raised their weapons, but the being did not stop. A human had entered the council chamber. No one had invited them. No one had expected them. Humanity was too young, too small, too untested in the vast galactic stage. And yet, this human walked in as if they belonged. The alien leaders hissed, whispered, and clicked in their own languages. For centuries, they had kept humans away. They had said Earth was not ready. They had said humans were dangerous, too reckless, too emotional. Some even called them unstable. And now, here one was, standing in the very center of the chamber. The human did not bow, did not kneel. They simply looked around the room, their eyes cold and calm. "We are done waiting," the human voice echoed, carried by hidden translators. "Humanity claims its place in this council." The chamber erupted in chaos. The insectoid delegate slammed its claws on the stone table. The reptilian warlord hissed in fury, showing rows of sharp teeth. The avian elder spread its wings in shock. Never in all history had a young race demanded entry like this. It was forbidden. It was madness. But the human's voice did not shake. They stood taller as the shouts filled the air. "You've ignored us. You've spoken about us. You've decided our future without us. That ends now." For a moment, the chamber seemed like it would explode in violence. Guards stepped closer, weapons humming. Some delegates shouted for arrest, others for execution. And yet, one figure in the shadows stayed quiet. In the darkest corner of the chamber, hidden behind the pillars, sat something else. The others rarely spoke of it. It was not part of the council, but it was always there, watching. The apex predator. No one knew its true name. No one knew its true age. Some said it was older than all the council races combined. Some said it had destroyed empires before the council was even formed. It did not speak often, but its presence was enough to keep order. Even the most violent species did not dare challenge it. And now, it stirred. The guards froze as the shadows shifted. The predator's glowing eyes opened, piercing through the chamber. The noise died instantly. Delegates lowered their voices. Even the strongest warlords looked uneasy. For when the apex predator looked at you, it was as if your soul itself was weighed and measured. The predator stepped forward, its movements smooth, silent, like a shadow given flesh. Its body was massive, but it carried itself with deadly grace. Each step echoed like a warning. Every alien lowered their gaze as it approached the human. The human, however, did not move, did not bow, did not flinch. They met the predator's gaze head-on. The silence stretched. Tension filled the chamber so heavy it was hard to breathe. Every delegate knew what usually happened. Any species that showed disrespect in the predator's presence was destroyed. Entire fleets burned for lesser insults. And yet, this human still stood. Finally, the predator spoke, its voice low, deep, and cold, like stone grinding against stone. "Humanity." The word rolled through the chamber like thunder. Delegates shivered. The predator almost never spoke the name of a young race. It circled the human slowly, eyes glowing, studying every detail. The council waited, terrified of what judgment would come. If the predator declared humanity unworthy, Earth itself might burn before the next sunrise. The human said nothing, only watching as the apex circled them like prey. Then, suddenly, the predator stopped. It leaned close, so close its sharp teeth caught the light. The delegates waited for the kill. But instead, the predator's voice dropped even lower. "You are not afraid. The words were not a question. They were a statement. The human finally spoke, their tone steady. "We have lived in fear long enough. Fear of you. Fear of this council. That ends now." The chamber went still again. Even the bravest species felt ice in their veins. No one had ever spoken to the predator like this. For a long, endless moment, the predator said nothing. Then, to the shock of every being in the chamber, it let out a sound none expected. A laugh. A deep, rumbling laugh that shook the walls. The delegates looked at one another in disbelief. The predator never laughed. The predator never found amusement. And yet, here it was, laughing in front of a human. When the laughter ended, the predator leaned back and spoke again. "Interesting." Every alien felt their hearts drop. Interesting was a word the predator had not used in centuries. The predator looked at the council. Its glowing eyes swept across every delegate, silencing them with a single glance. Then, it looked back at the human. "Perhaps," the predator said, "humanity does belong here." Gasps filled the chamber. Shock. Outrage. Fear. Because if the predator accepted humans, then no one could deny them entry. Not even the strongest fleets could oppose the will of the apex predator. The humans' lips curved into the faintest of smiles. They had not just forced their way into the council. They had done the impossible. They had caught the attention, and perhaps even the respect, of the apex predator itself. But deep in the shadows, unseen by all, the predator's eyes glowed brighter. For while it had spoken the words aloud, its mind whispered another truth. "Perhaps, they are more dangerous than even I imagined." The council chamber was still shaking from the predator's words. No one could believe what had just happened. A young human, a species barely known outside their own star system, had stood before the apex predator and lived. Not only lived, earned a place. Whispers filled the chamber, but no one spoke too loudly. The predator was still watching. Its glowing eyes scanned the room, daring anyone to challenge its decision. None did. Not even the reptilian warlords or the insectoid generals, who normally shouted the loudest. The predator's approval was law. The human, still standing tall, said nothing more. They did not need to. Every alien in the chamber knew what this moment meant. Humanity had broken into the council. And worse, for the others, it had been welcomed. But deep in the shadows of the council, not everyone agreed. After the meeting ended, the delegates scattered in fury. Private messages raced across secure channels. Words like dangerous, uncontrollable, and must be stopped spread quickly. Races that had hated each other for centuries suddenly shared a common enemy: humanity. Yet in the great halls outside the chamber, the human walked calmly, their steps echoing against the stone floors. The council guards followed at a distance, unsure whether to protect the human or to watch them like a prisoner. The predator remained in the chamber, its glowing eyes never leaving the spot where the human had stood. It was silent, but inside, something stirred. Something that had not stirred for ages. Interest. Far above the council station, fleets moved silently. Ships of every kind floated in orbit, each carrying weapons that could shatter moons. For the great races of the galaxy, the council was not only a place of power but also a battlefield waiting to ignite. On one of those ships, a reptilian commander slammed its claws against the metal table. "This is unacceptable," it hissed. "The predator cannot be trusted. If it accepts humans, then humans will rise. If humans rise, everything we built falls." Others nodded. An insectoid general clicked its mandibles. "We strike early. Humanity must not be allowed to grow stronger. They are reckless. Dangerous. They will burn everything." But another voice, quieter, spoke from the shadows of the War Council. "Or," it said slowly, "they will burn only us." The room went silent. For the first time, the powerful races of the galaxy felt something they rarely admitted: fear. Back on Earth, word of what had happened spread like wildfire. The image of the lone human standing before the apex predator filled every screen. People cheered in the streets. Children shouted the human's name. For centuries, Earth had been ignored, treated like a child among giants. Now, the galaxy had no choice but to listen. But while the people celebrated, Earth's leaders felt a heavy weight. They knew the council races would not accept this easily. They knew the peace would not last. Humanity had forced its way into the spotlight, but the spotlight was dangerous. It drew predators from the dark. The human who stood in the chamber, the envoy, knew it too. They looked up at the stars from the balcony of the council station, their eyes sharp. They had seen the hatred in the eyes of the other delegates. They had felt the tension. Humanity had entered the council, yes. But at what cost? That night, the envoy was summoned. Not by the council. Not by the guards. But by the predator itself. The message was simple, but it chilled the envoy's blood. Come. Alone. The envoy walked through the silent halls, guided by fear and curiosity. Few ever met the predator in private. Those who did were either never seen again, or returned changed. The doors opened into darkness. The envoy stepped inside. The shadows moved, and the predator appeared, larger than life, its glowing eyes locking on the human once again. For a long time, it said nothing. Then, finally, its voice rumbled low. Do you understand what you have done? The envoy swallowed but stood their ground. I claimed what belongs to us. The predator's teeth showed in something between a smile and a warning. No. You claimed what belongs to me. The words were heavy, carrying more meaning than the human could yet grasp. The predator circled them, silent, deadly, just as it had in the chamber. Why, it asked at last, should I let you live? The envoy's answer came without hesitation. Because you want to see what happens next. The predator stopped. For a moment, the silence was endless. Then, the laugh came again, deep, cold, shaking the room. You are bold, human, the predator said, its eyes glowing brighter. Too bold. The others will come for you. They will test you. They will try to break you. And I. It leaned close, its voice a whisper that carried more power than thunder. I will be watching. The envoy met its gaze, and for the first time, felt the full weight of what had begun. Humanity had stepped into the council. But in doing so, it had also stepped into the predator's shadow. And shadows were where the deadliest things waited. The days after the humans' entry into the council were not quiet. Far from it. The entire galaxy seemed to tremble with whispers. Some species called it a victory for justice. Others called it madness. But almost all agreed on one thing: this was only the beginning. On the edge of council space, warships gathered. Fleets that once fought each other now trained their guns in the same direction. They were not yet firing, but their movements carried a warning. Something was coming. Inside the council station, the human envoy walked the endless halls under constant watch. Everywhere they went, alien eyes followed. Some glared with open hatred. Others studied with cold curiosity. But no one offered a smile. The envoy had forced open a door that was never meant for humans, and now the galaxy waited to see if humanity would survive what came next. One evening, the envoy was summoned again, not by the predator this time, but by a secret message delivered through hidden channels. Meet me in the lower decks. Come without guards. It could have been a trap. Most likely, it was. But the envoy went anyway. They had no choice. In this place, refusing an invitation was more dangerous than accepting it. The lower decks of the council station were different from the shining upper halls. Down here, the walls were rough, the lights flickered, and shadows stretched long. The envoy's footsteps echoed, and every sound made the air feel heavier. Then, from the darkness, figures appeared. Not soldiers. Not guards. But delegates. High-ranking ones. The reptilian warlord, the insectoid general, and even the avian elder stood there, waiting. The envoy stopped, their heartbeat steady, though every instinct screamed to run. The reptilian warlord hissed first. "You should not be here, human." Its voice dripped with venom. "You think the predator protects you. You think its interest makes you strong. But the predator is not your ally. It is your cage." The insectoid general clicked its mandibles in agreement. "Do you know why the predator sits in the shadows of the council? It is not to guide. It is to control. It chooses who rises. It chooses who falls. Entire empires have been crushed for daring to challenge it." The avian elder stepped forward, wings folded tight. Its eyes were sharp, filled with cold wisdom. "You are not the first species to catch its attention. Others stood where you stand now. Others thought themselves special. All of them are gone." The words struck deep. The envoy felt their stomach twist, but they did not show it. They kept their voice calm. "Maybe they were not ready. Maybe humanity is." The warlord slammed its clawed hand against the wall, cracking the stone. "Fool! You think you are chosen? You are nothing but a spark waiting to be crushed." The envoy looked at them all, their gaze steady. "If humanity is only a spark, then perhaps that's enough to start a fire." The aliens froze at the boldness of the answer. For a moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, the elder leaned forward, its feathers bristling. "You are walking into the jaws of a beast, human. And when it closes, no fire will save you." The figures faded back into the shadows, leaving the envoy alone. The warning echoed in their mind. Not the first species. Not the first to be noticed by the predator. And yet, the first to survive so far. But survival was not victory. Not yet. Later, as the envoy returned to their quarters, they found something waiting. A single mark carved into the metal door. A symbol that belonged to no council race. It was old. Older than the council itself. And deep inside, the envoy knew what it meant. Someone, or something, was watching beyond even the predator's gaze. That night, the predator itself appeared once more, stepping from the shadows of the envoy's room. The sight froze the human in place, though they did not show fear. The predator's glowing eyes locked onto them. "They warned you, didn't they?" it said, its deep voice carrying both amusement and menace. The envoy said nothing. The predator's teeth flashed in the dark. "Good. Warnings are useful. But remember this, human, those who warn you also fear you. And fear can be very entertaining." The envoy finally spoke, their words quiet but firm. "You're testing us." The predator's laugh rumbled low, shaking the room. "Yes. And so far, you do not disappoint." It leaned close, whispering in a voice that chilled the human's blood. "But the true test is coming. And when it does, we will see if your fire burns the galaxy, or if it burns only you." Then, like a shadow, the predator was gone. The envoy stood alone, heart pounding, the symbol still etched into their mind. They had forced humanity into the council, yes. But now it was clear, this was not just politics. Not just power. It was survival. And in the shadows of the galaxy, survival was never guaranteed. The envoy did not sleep that night. The predator's words circled in their mind like a storm. A test was coming. A true test. But what kind of test? And when? The council halls felt different the next morning. Colder. Quieter. Delegates moved quickly, avoiding the human's eyes. Whispers echoed in corners. Everyone seemed to know something was about to happen. The envoy walked to the council chamber as usual, but this time, the guards at the doors stepped aside without a word. Inside, the air was heavy. The seats of the council were full. Even the oldest races, who rarely showed themselves, had come today. Something was different. At the center of the chamber, a hollow map of the galaxy flickered to life. Red markers spread across it like fire. Fleets moving. Battles starting. Borders collapsing. The insectoid general stood and raised its claws. "There," it said, pointing at the burning map. Your humans have drawn too much attention. Rival empires think the council is weak. They strike because of you. The reptilian warlord's voice followed, sharp as a blade. And now, it is time humanity proves itself, or dies. We will not protect you. If you want a place here, you must fight for it. The envoy felt their chest tighten. So this was the test. A trial by war. The avian elder leaned forward, its feathers gleaming under the chamber lights. A world on the edge of council space is under attack. If your humans cannot defend it, they have no place here. Fail, and your kind will be erased. Gasps filled the chamber. Even among the council races, such words were rare. Erasure was no idle threat. It meant fleets sent to burn Earth itself. The envoy did not flinch. Where? They asked. The holomap zoomed in. A small colony world, nothing more than a mining hub, surrounded by red enemy markers. The enemy was not one species, but many. Pirates, mercenaries, and outlaws. Perhaps pushed, perhaps paid, but clearly unleashed at the perfect time. The envoy studied it, then spoke firmly. Humanity accepts. Laughter broke out among some delegates. The insectoid general clicked its mandibles in amusement. Your ships are weak. Your fleets are small. You will die before you arrive. The predator, silent until now, shifted in the shadows. Its glowing eyes cut through the chamber. And once again, silence fell. Let them fight, the predator said. Its voice rolled like thunder. Let us see if their fire is real. The council voted, though the result was already decided. Humanity's trial had begun. Far away, on Earth, alarms filled command centers. Generals and admirals shouted orders as fleets scrambled. Every ship that could move was launched. Old cruisers, half-finished frigates, even transport vessels were armed and pushed into service. Humanity was not ready for this, but they had no choice. The colony itself sent desperate messages. Families huddled in shelters. Miners turned their tools into weapons. They had heard the rumors of what happened when alien raiders took a world. None expected mercy. The envoy returned to their quarters, preparing for departure. But as they packed, the shadows shifted once more. The predator was there. You should fear this, it said softly. Your fleets are small. Your weapons are crude. Against what is coming, you will break. The envoy faced it, heart pounding. Maybe we will, they admitted. But if humanity falls, it will not fall quietly. We will make sure the galaxy remembers us. The predator's teeth flashed in the dark, almost like a smile. Good. I want to see how brightly you burn. Then it vanished, leaving the envoy alone once more. Hours later, the human fleets jumped into the stars. Their engines roared as they crossed the void, heading straight toward the burning colony. On their way, they picked up every civilian ship they could, turning freighters into warships, arming miners and traders. The galaxy watched. Every screen across council space carried the images. Some cheered, waiting for humans to fall. Others leaned forward, curious, wondering if this reckless species might truly surprise them. And in the shadows of the council chamber, the apex predator sat in silence, its glowing eyes locked on the unfolding war. It whispered words no one else could hear. Show me, humans. Show me if your spark can become a storm. The human fleet jumped into the colony's orbit, and the sight that met them was chaos. Fires burned across the surface. Enemy ships swarmed the skies like vultures. The mining settlement below sent distress signals, but they grew weaker by the hour. Admiral Reyes, commanding the fleet, stood on the bridge of the human flagship. The ship was old, its armor scarred from earlier wars on Earth, but its crew stood ready. Every human vessel behind them was a patchwork of desperate engineering. Cargo haulers turned into missile carriers, mining ships with weapons bolted onto their hulls. The admiral's voice carried steady through the comms. We hold this colony. No matter the cost. The enemy fleet moved quickly. Dozens of ships, larger and faster, turned to meet the humans. Their weapons charged, their engines glowing like predators circling prey. They expected an easy kill. On the colony surface, families held each other close as the sky lit up with the first exchange of fire. The children watched, wide-eyed, as streaks of light crossed the heavens. To them, it was the end of the world. But to the galaxy, it was the beginning of the test. In the council chamber, the delegates watched the battle through massive holoscreens. Their expressions were cold, some amused, others eager for humanity's defeat. "They are too few," hissed the reptilian warlord. "This will be over in minutes." The insectoid general clicked its mandibles. "Weak prey never lasts long. This is their mistake." But the predator said nothing. Its glowing eyes burned as it leaned forward in its shadowed seat. It watched every human movement with sharp focus. Back in orbit, the battle began. Enemy ships fired first, filling the void with blazing energy bolts. Human shields flickered under the impact, fragile and thin. Two smaller human vessels were torn apart in the opening minutes. Gasps filled the council chamber. Some delegates sneered. Others leaned closer, waiting for the final collapse. But Admiral Reyes' voice cut through the chaos. "Do not scatter. Do not run. Stay in formation." The human fleet tightened, ships covering each other, turning weakness into strength. Old cargo haulers formed a wall, shielding the smaller craft. Converted mining ships dove forward, spraying missiles in wide arcs. The humans fought like they had on Earth, close, desperate, and furious. The first enemy cruiser broke apart under the sudden barrage. The second followed, torn open by missiles the pirates never expected from primitive humans. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. No one had expected the humans to strike back so hard, so fast. On the colony surface, the people cheered as flaming wreckage fell from the sky. Hope flickered for the first time. But the battle was far from over. More enemy ships pressed in, surrounding the humans. Their numbers were overwhelming. The sky became a storm of fire, and every explosion shook the colony below. Admiral Reyes stood tall on the bridge, giving orders with a calm voice, but their eyes betrayed the truth. They knew the fleet would not last forever. And then came the turning point. The enemy unleashed their largest ship, a dreadnought 3 times the size of the human flagship. Its weapons lit up, tearing through shields and splitting one human frigate in two. Panic rippled through the human ranks. On Earth, families watching the battle through transmissions held their breath. Children cried as they saw ships explode. Mothers and fathers prayed. In the council chamber, some delegates laughed openly. "It ends now," the reptilian warlord said with satisfaction. But in the shadows, the predator leaned forward. Its eyes glowed brighter. On the human flagship, Admiral Reyes gave the order. "All ships, focus fire on the dreadnought. Do not stop. Bring it down." The human fleet roared back with everything they had. Missiles, torpedoes, and railguns pounded the giant ship. Smaller vessels sacrificed themselves, slamming into the dreadnought's shields just to open a gap for others to fire. The council watched in stunned silence as the human fleet, battered and bleeding, threw itself at the monster ship. It was reckless. It was madness. It was human. And then, in a blaze of light, the dreadnought cracked. Its core erupted in fire, and the giant ship split apart, raining debris across the colony sky. The council chamber exploded in shouts. Some in disbelief. Some in anger. And a few, though they would never admit it, in awe. The predator's low laugh rumbled through the chamber, silencing them all. On the human flagship, Admiral Reyes whispered under their breath, "We hold. No matter the cost." But deep in space, beyond the edge of the battle, more enemy ships were gathering. Humanity had won a victory, but the true storm had not yet begun. And in the shadows of the council, the predator's eyes glowed as it whispered words only it could hear. "Good. Show me if you can survive the fire to come." The wreck of the enemy dreadnought still burned in the sky when the second wave arrived. Hundreds of ships, more than humanity had ever faced, dropped out of warp, surrounding the battered human fleet. Admiral Reyes stood frozen for a moment, then clenched their fists. "So this is it," they whispered. On Earth, the live transmission continued. Billions watched as the new fleet appeared. The cheers from before turned into silence. Families stared at their screens in horror. Even the children who had just celebrated fell quiet. In the council chamber, the delegates leaned forward. Some smiled cruelly. Others whispered to each other. The reptilian warlord hissed in delight. "The humans fought hard, but now they are finished." The insectoid general clicked its mandibles. "They will be wiped out. Their courage means nothing against numbers." Only the apex predator sat silent in the shadows, its glowing eyes fixed on the screens. The enemy ships advanced, their weapons glowing. The human fleet pulled back, forming a shield around the colony. Their ships were damaged, half their weapons gone, but not a single vessel turned to run. Admiral Reyes' voice rang across every human channel. "We are not fighting for glory. We are not fighting for the council. We are fighting for our people, for the families below us, and for Earth itself. If we fall together. But no one, gets past us alive." The humans roared back their answer, and the battle began again. The second wave was worse than the first. Enemy cruisers tore through human lines. One by one, human ships exploded, their crews giving everything to hold the wall. A mining freighter slammed straight into an enemy destroyer, taking both down in a blaze of fire. A half-armed cargo ship overloaded its engines, ramming another cruiser into pieces. The council chamber filled with gasps. Delegates could hardly believe what they were seeing. The humans were not retreating. They were not begging for mercy. They were fighting like a species that refused to die. But still, the numbers were too great. Slowly, the human line was pushed back. The colony surface was once again in danger. Admiral Reyes gritted their teeth. "We cannot hold like this. We need something more." And then it came. From the darkness beyond the battlefield, new signals appeared. Human signals. More ships. Not warships this time. Civilian vessels from across Earth space. Freighters, tankers, colony transports. Every ship that could move had come. And each one carried weapons strapped to its hull. The enemy fleet turned in shock as hundreds of civilian ships dove into the fight. They were not trained soldiers. They were farmers, miners, traders, but they fought with the same fury as the fleet. The council chamber fell into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other. "Madness! Suicide! This is not war, it is insanity." But the predator leaned forward in silence, its glowing eyes brighter than ever. The humans swarmed the enemy like fire. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation, crashing into enemy lines, forcing openings for the fleet. Every death carried weight, every loss was a spark that lit another flame. On Earth, people wept as they watched their loved ones vanish in fire. But still, they did not turn away. They watched, and they remembered. The battle raged for hours. Both sides burned. The colony shook as wreckage fell from the skies. And then, something happened no one expected. The enemy ships began to falter. Their formations broke. Some retreated. Some simply stopped fighting. Against all reason, against all odds, the humans had held. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in living memory, the great races of the galaxy had seen a young species stand against impossible numbers, and survive. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge, their face lit by the burning sky. They knew what had been gained today, and what had been lost. Thousands of lives. Entire families. But the colony still stood. The predator's voice finally broke the silence in the council chamber. Its low laugh rolled like thunder. "They bleed, and yet they do not fall." Every delegate turned in shock. The predator leaned forward, its glowing eyes fixed on the human envoy. "The test is not over. But they have survived the fire. Few races ever do. The envoy stood tall, though their heart pounded. They knew this was not victory. Not yet. This was only survival. And survival in the galaxy was just the first step. Because in the deepest shadows, beyond the Council's reach, something else was moving. Something far older, far darker, that had watched the battle as well. And it whispered a truth the galaxy was not ready to hear. If this is how humans fight when they are weak, what will they become when they are strong? The smoke of the battle still drifted above the colony world. Wreckage of ships, human and alien, burned in the void, glowing like dying stars. Below, the people of the colony emerged from shelters, staring up at the sky in disbelief. Against all odds, they were alive. But Admiral Reyes did not celebrate. The fleet was in ruins. Half the ships were gone. Thousands of lives lost. And yet, even in their exhaustion, the humans had survived the trial. They had done what the galaxy thought was impossible. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Crowds filled the streets, cheering through tears. Mothers wept for sons who would never return, but they wept with pride. Fathers raised their children high, pointing to the skies, saying, "Remember this day. Remember what it means to be human." But not everyone celebrated. In the council chamber, silence hung heavy. The delegates were shaken, some furious, some afraid. For the first time in ages, they had seen a young species stand where only the great empires once stood. Humanity had bled, but humanity had not fallen. The reptilian warlord slammed its claw against the table, its voice filled with venom. "This is a danger. Do you not see it? If they can do this now, what will they do in 100 years? 1,000? Humanity must be destroyed before they grow stronger." The insectoid general clicked its mandibles. "Yes. This is not courage. This is a threat. If the predator keeps protecting them, they will become a fire that consumes us all." The avian elder, however, did not speak at first. Its sharp eyes studied the human envoy, who stood silently in the chamber. Finally, the elder spread its wings and said, "Perhaps the fire cannot be stopped. Perhaps it is already too late." The chamber erupted in shouts. Threats. Promises of war. Alliances forming and breaking in seconds. And then the predator moved. Its glowing eyes silenced the room. Its voice rolled like thunder. Enough. The chamber froze. The predator stood, its massive form stepping into the light for the first time in centuries. Many delegates gasped. Some trembled. Few had ever seen it fully revealed. It looked at the human envoy. "Your kind has survived the trial. Few races ever do. But survival is not enough. The question is, what will you become?" The envoy's voice was steady, though their heart raced. "We will become what we must. We will not kneel. We will not hide. Humanity will stand." The predator's teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "Good. I have waited for this." The council whispered in fear. Waited. What did that mean? And then the truth came. The predator's voice dropped lower, colder. "You think the council rules the galaxy. You think its fleets, its laws, its votes decide who lives and dies. But you are wrong. The council is only a shield. A wall. A cage. To keep out what lives beyond." The chamber grew colder. Shadows seemed to stretch. "What lives beyond?" the envoy asked carefully. The predator's glowing eyes fixed on them. "The real predators. The ones who came before even me. They sleep now, in the black between galaxies. But they will wake. They always wake. And when they do, everything you know will burn." The council fell into chaos. Delegates shouted in terror. Some denied it. Others begged for answers. But deep inside, they all knew. The predator had never lied. The human envoy stood in silence, their blood cold. For the first time, they understood why the predator had been watching them. Why it had tested them. Why it had laughed. The predator leaned closer, its voice a whisper that carried more weight than thunder. That is why I chose you. Humanity is not like the others. You fight with fury, with madness, with something they fear but cannot understand. If any race can stand when the old ones return, it may be you. The envoy swallowed hard. And if we fail? The predator's teeth flashed. Then the galaxy dies. The chamber was silent again. Every delegate stared at the human. Some with fear. Some with hate. Some with desperate hope. For the first time in history, humanity was no longer just a new species demanding a seat. Humanity had been given a burden older than the council itself. The envoy raised their head, their voice clear. Then we will not fail. Admiral Reyes returned to Earth weeks later, leading what remained of the fleet. The people cheered their names, but Reyes did not smile. They looked at the faces in the crowd and thought of the predator's words. The test was not over. It had only just begun. Across the galaxy, strange signals began to stir. Faint, ancient echoes from the void. Ships vanishing without trace. Stars flickering out. Whispers of movement in the darkness between galaxies. The predator watched from the shadows, its glowing eyes burning brighter than ever. For the first time in ages, it felt something close to excitement. And far beyond, in the endless black, something stirred. Something vast. Something older than empires. Its voice was not a sound but a vibration in the bones of the galaxy itself. We wake. We come. And the fire will be tested. On Earth, children looked up at the stars and dreamed of going there. They did not yet know what waited. But they would. Because humanity had broken into the council. Humanity had faced the apex predator in the shadows and survived. And now, the galaxy itself waited to see if humans were not just a spark, but the storm that would burn through the dark.